I didn't leave because I stopped loving my husband. I left because I was terrified he had already stopped loving me. I never imagined those words would become the quiet confession I repeated to myself at 3 o'clock in the morning while standing in the middle of the bedroom I once believed would be my forever. The house was silent except for the soft hum of the baby monitor on the nightstand and the faint sound of rain tapping against the windows. 5 years ago, I thought Alexander Whitmore and I had built something unbreakable. He was the kind of man everyone noticed when he walked into a room. A successful CEO, a respected alpha, someone who seemed to carry confidence like it was part of him. But the man the world admired was not the same man I saw sitting across from me at dinner, staring at his phone while his food went cold. Somewhere along the way, our conversations became shorter. Our smiles became less frequent. The small moments that once made our home feel warm slowly disappeared. Alex still provided everything we needed. The bills were always paid. Noah had the best clothes, the safest toys, and every opportunity a child could ask for. But I didn't need another expensive gift or another reminder that he could solve problems with money. I needed him to look at me and see me. I needed to know that I was still his husband, not just another responsibility on his endless list. The hardest part was that Alex never said he was unhappy. He never yelled. He never blamed me. Somehow, that made the distance hurt even more. Anger would have meant there was still something between us. Silence felt like the end of everything. That night, after watching him walk past me without noticing the tears I quickly wiped away, I made a decision I never thought I would make. I packed a small suitcase. Not everything, just enough to make it believable. A few shirts, some personal things, and the old photo of us from the first year we were together. I placed the picture in my bag and held it for a moment, remembering a time when Alex would smile before I even finished telling a joke. A time when he would come home early just to spend an extra hour with me. I told myself, this was only temporary. I wasn't really leaving. I just needed to know if he would notice my absence. I needed to know if my place in his heart was still there. The next morning, Alex stood near the kitchen island while Noah ate breakfast beside him. The scene should have looked perfect. A father helping his son, sunlight coming through the windows, a peaceful family morning. But I felt like I was watching it from outside a glass wall. I need some time away, I said quietly. Alex looked up. For a second, I searched his face for panic, sadness, anything that would tell me I mattered. But his expression remained calm. Too calm. If that's what you need, he answered. Those 5 words felt heavier than any argument we had ever had. I nodded because if I spoke, my voice would break. I picked up my suitcase, kissed Noah's forehead, and walked toward the door. I waited. Just for 1 second. I waited for Alex to stop me. I waited for him to say my name. I waited for the man I loved to fight for us. But the door closed behind me, and the silence that followed felt like an answer. I drove away with tears in my eyes, convinced I had just walked out of the life I wanted to save. What I didn't know was that inside that house, behind the same closed door, Alexander Whitmore was holding back a truth that would change everything I believed about my marriage. After I left, I expected the hardest part would be walking away. I was wrong. The hardest part was realizing how much I still wanted him to come after me. The small apartment I rented across town felt unfamiliar, even though it was quiet and comfortable. Every corner reminded me of the life I had left behind. The coffee mug Alex used every morning. The blanket Noah always carried around the house. The little drawings my son made and proudly placed on the refrigerator. I had taken only a few things because a part of me still believed I would return soon. I told myself this was just a test. I needed answers. I needed to know if my absence would matter. But as the hours passed, my confidence began to disappear. My phone stayed silent. No messages from Alex. No calls asking where I was. No words telling me that he wanted me home. I stared at the screen more times than I wanted to admit, waiting for something that never came. Meanwhile, inside the Whitmore house, Alex moved through the rooms like a man who had forgotten how to breathe. He helped Noah get ready for bed, prepared his favorite bedtime story, and checked the small nightlight beside his son's bed. From the outside, everything looked normal. But Alex was different. He was quieter than usual. He stood in the hallway for several minutes after Noah fell asleep, looking toward the empty bedroom. The room we once shared. The room where we had built years of memories together. I did not see any of that. I only saw the silence. The next morning, I tried to convince myself that leaving was the right decision. I went for a walk around the neighborhood, bought a cup of coffee from a small cafe, and watched families pass by. A father holding his child's hand. A couple laughing together. Ordinary moments that suddenly felt like things I had lost forever. I wondered if Alex missed me at all, or if he was simply relieved that the tension between us was gone. That thought hurt more than I expected. But then something strange happened. Noah called me. His small voice came through the phone, asking when I was coming home. I swallowed my emotions and told him that I loved him. I asked if Daddy was there. There was a pause. Then Noah quietly said, "Daddy keeps looking at the door." My heart stopped for a moment. "What do you mean?" I asked. Noah answered with the innocent honesty only a child could have. "He thinks you are coming back." I sat there silently, holding the phone in my hand. For the first time since I left, I wondered if I had misunderstood everything. Later that evening, I returned near the house, but stayed in my car. I did not know why I came back. Maybe I wanted to see my family from a distance. Maybe I needed proof that I still belonged there. Through the window, I saw Alex sitting on the couch alone. He was holding one of Noah's toys, looking at it with an expression I had not seen in years. Not cold, not distant, just tired and heartbroken. I almost stepped out of the car. I almost walked inside. But then I stopped. I needed to know the truth. I needed to understand what had happened to the man I loved and the marriage we almost lost. So instead of knocking on the door, I went back to my apartment and made one choice. I would not ask Alex what was wrong. Not yet. I would listen. I would watch. I would find the truth that he had never been able to say out loud. I thought I was ready to discover the truth, but I never imagined the truth would break down every wall I had built around my heart. That evening, I sat in my car across from the Whitmore house, watching the warm lights inside the place that used to feel like my entire world. I told myself I was only there because I needed answers. I told myself I was not hoping for anything. But deep inside, I was still waiting for the man I loved to prove that I had been wrong about him. After almost an hour, I quietly walked toward the side entrance. I still had the spare key I never returned. My hands trembled slightly as I unlocked the door, not because I was afraid, but because it felt like I was stepping back into a life that no longer belonged to me. The house was exactly the same, yet everything felt different. The family photos were still on the walls. Noah's little shoes were still beside the entryway. The blanket he loved was still folded on the couch. But there was something missing. The warmth that once filled every room seemed to have disappeared. I moved quietly, listening for any sign of Alex or Noah. Then I heard a soft voice coming from upstairs. It was Alex. I stopped immediately. He was in Noah's room. The door was slightly open, and through the small gap, I could see him sitting beside our son's bed. He was not working. He was not looking at his phone. He was simply there, holding Noah's favorite stuffed animal while watching him sleep. For a moment, I forgot every painful thought I had carried with me. Because the man in front of me did not look like someone who wanted me gone. He looked like someone who had lost something precious. I stayed hidden in the hallway, unable to move. Then Alex spoke softly. "I am sorry, Noah." My heart tightened. I had heard Alex apologize before, but never like this. His voice carried a sadness I had never noticed. "I know Papa thinks I do not love him anymore." I froze. The words felt impossible. I know I made him feel alone. I know I was too quiet. I know I came home and acted like everything was fine when it was not. I covered my mouth, trying to stay silent. Alex continued speaking to our son, unaware that I was listening. "But I need you to know something. Daddy never stopped loving Papa. Not for 1 second. My entire body went still. For years, I believed his silence meant he did not care. I believed his distance meant his feelings had disappeared. But now, standing outside that room, I was hearing a side of Alex I had never seen. I just did not know how to tell him that I was struggling, Alex whispered. I thought if I carried everything myself, I could protect our family. I thought being strong meant never showing weakness. I felt tears forming in my eyes, because suddenly, memories I had pushed away began returning. The nights Alex came home exhausted but still checked on Noah before sleeping. The mornings he left early but always prepared my coffee. The small things I had mistaken for routine. Maybe they were not signs that he stopped caring. Maybe they were the only ways he knew how to show love. Then Alex reached for the baby monitor on the table beside him and adjusted the volume. One day, "I hope Papa understands," he said quietly. I never wanted him to feel alone. He is my family. He is my home. I stepped back from the doorway, my heart racing with emotions I could not name. I had come here searching for proof that my marriage was over. Instead, I had found something I never expected, a truth hidden behind years of silence. For the first time in a long time, I wondered if I had been listening to the wrong message. Maybe Alex had never stopped loving me. Maybe we had both been waiting for the other person to speak first. I spent years believing that silence was the thing that destroyed our marriage. I never realized that silence was also the place where my husband had been hiding his pain. After hearing Alex speak to Noah that night, I could not simply walk away. The image of him sitting beside our son, admitting his fears to a child too young to understand them, stayed with me long after I returned to my apartment. For the first time in months, I did not feel angry. I felt confused. I had built an entire story in my mind about Alex. I convinced myself that he had changed, that his priorities had shifted, that maybe our love had become something he no longer wanted. But the truth I heard through that bedroom door was different. The next morning, I went back to the Whitmore house while Alex was at work. I told myself I was only there to pick up a few things I had forgotten. But deep down, I knew I was searching for answers. I walked through our home slowly, noticing details I had ignored for so long. On the kitchen counter was a notebook filled with reminders about Noah's school schedule, his favorite meals, and little things that made him happy. Beside it was another list with my name written at the top. My hands froze when I saw it. It was a list of things Alex wanted to do with me. Weekend trips we never took. Restaurants we never visited. Simple moments he wanted us to share. I turned the page, expecting to find business notes or work plans. Instead, I found something much more personal. It was a collection of thoughts he had written but never shared. He had written about how he missed the way we used to laugh together. He wrote about how he worried that his work had made him lose the person he loved most. He wrote about wanting to become a better husband, but not knowing where to begin. I sat there quietly, reading every word with tears in my eyes. Suddenly, the memories I had buried began returning. The morning Alex left before sunrise, but still placed a warm breakfast beside my coffee. The evenings when he was exhausted, but still helped Noah build toy houses on the living room floor. The nights when he checked the locks twice because he wanted to make sure we were safe. I had looked at those moments and thought they were not enough. I never considered that they might have been his way of saying, "I love you." Then I found a folder hidden inside the drawer of his desk. Inside were plans for the future. Not business plans. Family plans. There were ideas for a bigger home with a backyard where Noah could play. There were notes about places he wanted to take us on vacation. There was even a list of small traditions he wanted our family to have every year. Alex had not been planning a life without me. He had been planning one with me. My heart ached because I realized we had both been standing on opposite sides of the same wall. I thought he was moving away from me. He thought he was protecting me by carrying everything alone. Neither of us knew how to reach the other. That evening, I stayed outside the house again. But this time I was not searching for proof that Alex did not love me. I was searching for the courage to admit that I had been hurt, but I had also been wrong. When Alex arrived home, I watched him step inside and immediately call out for Noah. The moment our son ran toward him, Alex smiled in a way I had not seen in a long time. It was the same smile from the beginning of our relationship. The smile that made me fall in love with him. I stood there watching the man I thought I had lost, realizing he had been there all along. The only difference was that now I finally understood the truth behind his quiet heart. I thought finding the truth would bring me peace, but I never expected it to make me question every moment I had spent feeling alone. After everything I discovered inside the Whitmore house, I could no longer pretend that my marriage was simple. Alex was not the distant husband I believed him to be. He was a man who had been carrying fears he never shared with me. But understanding him did not erase the pain I felt. Love could explain many things, but it could not change the fact that we had both spent years hurting in silence. The next evening, I finally decided to do something I had avoided for too long. I decided to talk to him. When I arrived at the house, I found Alex sitting in the living room. After putting Noah to bed, the room was quiet, and for a moment, I saw the same tired expression I had noticed many times before. But this time, I saw it differently. I did not see someone who was ignoring me. I saw someone who was struggling. Alex looked up when he noticed me standing by the doorway. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. It felt strange being in the same room after being apart, even though we were only a few miles away from each other. "Ethan," he said softly. Hearing my name from him almost broke the wall I had built around my emotions. I wanted to ask so many questions. I wanted to ask why he never told me he was struggling, why he let me believe that I no longer mattered, why he chose silence when I needed honesty. Instead, I simply asked, "Did you ever stop loving me?" Alex looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Not the confidence of a CEO, not the calm control of an alpha, just a husband who was afraid of losing the person standing in front of him. "Never," he answered immediately. That single word carried more emotion than all the conversations we had avoided. Alex explained that after Noah was born, he became afraid of failing us. He looked at everything he had to protect and convinced himself that being responsible meant hiding every problem. He thought if he showed uncertainty, he would make me worry. He thought if he handled everything alone, he was being a better husband and father. But he never realized that his silence was creating a distance between us. "I thought I was protecting our family," he said quietly. "I did not realize I was making you feel like you were outside of it." I looked away because those words touched the exact place where I had been hurting. Because I had spent so much time wishing he would let me in, while he had spent so much time believing he had to stand alone. We were both reaching for the same thing. We just did it in completely different ways. Then Alex walked to his desk and returned with an envelope. He placed it in my hands and looked down. "I wrote this months ago," he said, "but I never gave it to you." Inside was a letter, not a business document, not a formal apology, just words from my husband. He wrote about the first time we met. He wrote about the way he admired my kindness. He wrote about how Noah changed his life. He wrote about how much he missed having simple conversations with me at the end of the day. By the time I finished reading, I could barely hold back my tears. I had spent so long believing I was the only one fighting for our family. But the truth was that Alex had been fighting too. He had just been fighting quietly. That night, we did not fix everything immediately. Some wounds needed time. Some conversations needed to happen. But for the first time in a long time, we were no longer standing on opposite sides. We were sitting in the same room, looking at the same problem, and choosing to face it together. For the first time in years, I woke up in my own home and did not feel like a stranger. Nothing around me had changed overnight. The same sunlight came through the kitchen windows. The same sound of Noah laughing filled the hallway. The same coffee machine sat on the counter where it always had. But something inside me had changed. I was no longer looking at Alex and wondering if he still cared. I was finally seeing the person behind the silence. The days after our conversation were not magically perfect. We did not pretend that everything was fixed. We knew better than that. Years of misunderstanding could not disappear in one night. But something important returned between us. We started talking again, not just about schedules, bills, or Noah's routine. We talked about feelings. We talked about fears. We talked about the things we had both been too afraid to say. One evening, after Noah went to sleep, Alex and I sat together in the living room. It was the same place where I had once sat alone, convinced that our marriage was ending. This time, the silence between us felt different. It was not empty. It was peaceful. "I should have told you sooner," Alex said. I looked at him and saw the honesty in his eyes. "I spent so much time trying to be strong that I forgot you never asked me to carry everything alone." Those words stayed with me, because they were true. I had always loved the part of Alex that protected our family, but I had forgotten that love was not only about protecting someone. It was also about allowing them to stand beside you. I reached for his hand and told him something I had been afraid to admit. "I thought your silence meant I was losing you. But maybe we were both just afraid." Alex nodded slowly. For the first time, I saw relief on his face. Not because every problem was gone, but because he no longer had to hide from me. Over the next few weeks, we rebuilt our connection through small moments. We cooked dinner together instead of eating separately. We took walks with Noah around the neighborhood. We laughed at the little things we used to ignore. Alex started leaving his office earlier whenever he could. I started telling him when I felt overwhelmed instead of pretending I was fine. We were learning each other again, not as the people we had become, but as the people we had always been underneath the stress and responsibilities. One Saturday morning, I found Alex sitting on the floor with Noah, helping him build a small wooden train set. The sight made me stop for a moment. Years ago, I would have looked at that scene and thought, why did he not do more of this before? But now I saw something else. I saw a father who wanted to be present. I saw a husband who was trying. I saw the love that had been there all along, waiting for both of us to notice it. Later that day, Alex and I looked through old photos together. Pictures from when we first met. Pictures from our wedding. Pictures from the day Noah came into our lives. We laughed at how different we looked back then. We remembered the dreams we had before life became complicated. "Do you think we can find our way back?" I asked quietly. Alex looked at me and smiled. "I do not think we need to go back," he said. "I think we are building something new." And for the first time, I believed him. Because our story was not about a perfect marriage that never struggled. It was about two people who almost lost each other, then learned how to choose each other again. I used to believe that love was proven through grand gestures, expensive gifts, perfect surprises, promises made in front of everyone. But after everything Alex and I had been through, I learned that the strongest kind of love was often found in the quiet moments when nobody was watching. A few months earlier, I thought my marriage was falling apart. I thought I had lost the man I loved because he had become distant and unreachable. I never imagined that the same person I felt far away from would become the person who helped me find my way back to myself. Alex and I had rebuilt our connection slowly. We did not rush. We did not pretend that the difficult moments never happened. Instead, we chose to understand them. We chose honesty over assumptions. We chose conversations over silence. One evening, Alex asked me to take a walk with him after dinner. It was a simple request, but something about his expression told me that this moment mattered. We walked through the neighborhood where we had spent so many years creating memories. The same streets where we pushed Noah in his stroller when he was a baby. The same park where we watched him take his first steps. The same place where we once dreamed about the future we wanted to build. After a few minutes, Alex stopped near a quiet bench under a large tree. He looked nervous, and that surprised me. I had seen him negotiate business deals worth millions of dollars without hesitation. I had watched him stand confidently in rooms filled with powerful people. But here, standing in front of me, he looked like a man searching for the right words. "Ethan, I know I cannot erase the moments when you felt alone," he said. "I know apologies cannot change the past, but I want you to know that every day, I choose you." I looked at him quietly as he continued. "I spent so much time thinking being a good alpha meant having all the answers. I thought I had to be the person who never struggled. But I learned something important. A family is not built by one person carrying everything. It is built by two people trusting each other. His words reached deeper than I expected, because that was what we had both needed all along. Not perfection, not someone who never made mistakes, just someone willing to stay and try. Then Alex reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small box. My heart immediately understood what was happening, but I let him speak. When we got married, I promised you a future. But somewhere along the way, I became so focused on protecting that future that I forgot to enjoy it with you. He opened the box, revealing a simple ring. I do not want to make another promise based on who we were before. I want to promise you something based on who we are now. I felt tears in my eyes as he continued. I promise to talk when I am afraid. I promise to listen when you are hurting. I promise to let you stand beside me instead of always standing in front of you. It was not a perfect moment from a movie. There was no crowd, no music, no grand celebration. It was just us, standing together, choosing each other again. And somehow, that made it more meaningful. I told Alex that I did not need him to be perfect. I never did. I only needed him to be present. He smiled, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the peace in his eyes. When we returned home, Noah ran toward us with a huge smile, completely unaware that his parents had just made another promise to each other. Alex picked him up, and I watched them together. A father, a son, a family that had almost lost its way but found a new path forward. That night, I realized something I would never forget. Sometimes love does not disappear when life becomes difficult. Sometimes it simply waits for two people to find the courage to speak again. The house that once felt filled with silence slowly became the place where we created our happiest memories. I used to believe that happiness was something we had lost forever, but I learned that sometimes happiness is not something you find again. Sometimes it is something you rebuild with patience, understanding, and small moments that remind you why you chose someone in the first place. Months passed after Alex and I decided to start over. Life did not suddenly become perfect. We still had busy days. We still disagreed sometimes. We still had moments when old fears tried to return. But the difference was that we no longer faced those moments alone. We talked. We listened. We remembered that we were on the same side. Alex changed in ways I never expected. The man who once carried every responsibility silently began sharing his thoughts with me. He told me when work became overwhelming. He told me when he felt uncertain. He stopped believing that showing emotions made him weaker. Instead, he learned that honesty made our family stronger. I changed too. I stopped waiting for Alex to read my mind. I stopped hiding my feelings behind a smile. I learned that love was not about expecting someone to know everything without being told. Love was also about having the courage to speak. Noah noticed the difference before anyone else. Children always seem to understand things adults miss. He noticed that Daddy laughed more. He noticed that Papa stayed longer at the dinner table. He noticed that our home felt warmer. One afternoon, I found Alex and Noah in the backyard. Noah was running around with a small toy airplane while Alex watched him with the kind of smile that made me pause. It was the same smile I had seen years ago when we first fell in love. A smile full of hope and possibility. I walked outside and sat beside them. Alex looked at me and reached for my hand. It was such a simple gesture, but it reminded me of everything we had survived. Not because our love had been tested by something dramatic, but because we had almost lost something precious through misunderstanding. That evening, we made dinner together. Nothing special, just a regular meal at home. But as we stood in the kitchen, passing ingredients to each other and laughing when Noah tried to help, I realized this was the future I had always wanted. Not a perfect life, not a life without problems, a real life. A life where we chose each other every day. Later that night, after Noah fell asleep, Alex and I sat beside his bed for a few minutes. We watched him sleep peacefully, surrounded by his favorite toys and blankets. Alex looked at our son and quietly said, "I almost missed so many moments because I was too busy trying to create the perfect future." I held his hand and answered, "But you are here now." And that was what mattered. The past could teach us. It could hurt us. It could change us. but it did not have to control us. A year after the day I left, we returned to the same neighborhood park where Alex had asked me to choose him again. This time, we brought Noah with us. We watched him play under the afternoon sun while we sat together on the bench. I looked at Alex and realized something important. The man I thought I had lost was never truly gone. We had simply forgotten how to reach each other. Our family was not rebuilt because we ignored the pain. It was rebuilt because we faced it together. And every day after that, we continued writing a new chapter, one filled with laughter, honesty, and the quiet promise that no matter what came next, we would never stop choosing each other. 1 year ago, I believed leaving was the only way to discover if I still mattered. I thought distance would reveal the truth. I thought silence would show me whether my husband still wanted me in his life. But now, standing in the home we rebuilt together, I understand something I never knew before. Love is not always loud. Sometimes it is hidden in the small moments we almost overlook. It is in the cup of coffee waiting on the counter every morning. It is in the hand reaching for yours when you are too tired to ask for comfort. It is in the person who stays beside you, even when neither of you knows exactly how to fix what is broken. Looking back, I still remember the night I packed my suitcase. I remember the fear that filled my heart when I walked out the door. I remember believing I was walking away from a marriage that had already ended. But the truth was different. I was not leaving a man who stopped loving me. I was leaving a man who did not know how to show me he was hurting too. Alex and I were never perfect. We were two people carrying our own worries, our own expectations, and our own fears. We spent too much time trying to protect each other without realizing that we were creating distance instead. But the moment we finally chose honesty, everything began to change. Years later, when I look at our family, I do not see the difficult moments first. I see the mornings when Noah climbs into our bed laughing. I see Alex making breakfast while pretending he does not notice Noah stealing pieces of fruit from the counter. I see the evenings when we sit together and talk about our day, not because we have to, but because we want to. Those ordinary moments became the greatest gifts. One afternoon, I found the old baby monitor stored in a box in the closet. I held it in my hands and remembered the night everything changed. A small device that was supposed to help us watch over our child became the thing that helped me understand my husband again. It reminded me that sometimes we search for answers everywhere except where they truly are. The truth was never hidden because Alex did not love me. The truth was hidden because we were both afraid to be vulnerable. That night changed our family forever, but not because of what I heard. It changed us because it gave us the courage to finally listen. Alex once told me that he spent years trying to build a perfect life for us. I told him that I never needed perfection. I only needed him. And that was the lesson we carried forward. A family is not created by never struggling. A family is created by choosing to stay, choosing to understand, and choosing to begin again. Noah grew older, and every year I watched him learn what love looked like. Not from grand promises or perfect moments, but from the way his parents treated each other every day. He learned that love meant kindness. Love meant patience. Love meant two people willing to meet in the middle. When I think about the future now, I no longer fear losing what we have built. Not because nothing difficult will ever happen again, but because I know we will face it together. The man I once thought I had lost became the person who helped me find my way home. And our family became stronger, not because we avoided the storm, but because we learned how to stand together after it passed. Sometimes the biggest discoveries in life are not about finding something new. Sometimes they are about finally seeing what was there all along.